Good morning, everyone. This is Rafe Gal. We are playing something a little different, but a lot the same. uh, this is Dragon Warrior. This is, in a lot of ways, the first JRPG, and my first RPG, personally. Made by Enix, this is the first, one of the first console RPGs as well. Very simple compared to what we're used to, in a lot of ways. But also a very neat game. Has a lot going on. I kind of found myself watching some of the Dragon Warrior randomizer races, which is why I started looking at it, because I like randomizers. And while I'm not looking at that as a option currently, for reasons we'll get into, I wanted to revisit the original game because it has definitely been a long time since I've played through it, and honestly, I don't know if I've actually finished the game as intended in the past. Like, I remember playing it as a kid, but at that point, I was playing with it was a lot of rental games, and it was a lot of Game Genie. So, yeah, we're going to get into it, and go back to our roots. Hope you like that music. There's not a whole lot of variation. Okay, we're gonna start a quest on Adventure 1. So the character's name actually matters a lot, and I went through a lot of my... Okay, not a lot. It matters, though. So I went through a lot of my options for typical names that I use, and I couldn't find one. So we're going with little FF6 representation with Edgar. So the name actually determines your stat growth throughout the game. And there aren't bad names necessarily, but they do impact different stats. So, we're gonna go ahead and we're definitely going message speed fast. And right off the bat, we are thrown in. We are in the throne room, and we are kind of forced into our tutorial. Descendant of Erdrick, listen now to my words. It is told that in ages past, Erdrick fought demons with a ball of light. Then came the Dragon Lord, who stole the precious globe and hid it in the darkness. Now, Edgar, thou must help us recover the ball of light and restore peace to our land. The Dragon Lord must be defeated. Take whatever you may find in these treasure chests, then speak with the guards, for they have much knowledge that may the light shine upon thee. So right off the bat, very much getting into that stylized dialect that this game is very well known for. And unlike a lot of RPGs, we don't just push A to talk to people or pick up a treasure chest. We actually have to go in and say, take. Got 120 gold. A torch. Do we know about Princess Gwaelin? No. Half a year has passed since the princess was kidnapped by the enemy. Never does the king speak of it. but he must be suffering much. Edgar, please save the princess. And we find a magic key, which is important, because otherwise we can't leave. If thou hast collected all the treasure chests, a key will be found. Once used, the key will disappear, but the door will be open. East of this castle is a town where armor, weapons, and other items can be purchased. Return to the inn for rest if you're wounded in battle. And the worst of all offenders, stairs. You actually have to go into the menu for stairs. King Lorik will record thy deeds on his imperial scroll, so thou may return to thy quest later. So, talk to the king to save. If you're planning to take a rest, first see King Lorik. Yep. There was a time when Breckenry was a paradise. Then the Dragon Lord's minions came. Breckenry's, like, not that far away and not terribly... Like, the Dragon Lord's minions there are slimes. I'm pretty sure they'll be okay. They're not trying very hard. Where can I find Princess Gwaelin? I mean... Okay. When entering the cave, take with thee a torch. Edgar's coming was foretold by legend. May the light shine upon this brave warrior. That guy's actually going to be really important as we go. Not because he gives us important information or something, but because anytime we talk to him, that light restores our NP. Which means we can heal ourselves without going to an inn. We are merchants who've traveled much in this land. Many of our colleagues have been killed by servants of the Dragon Lord. Rumor has it that entire towns have been destroyed by the Dragon Lord's servants. So, the inspiration for this game, with the menu set up the way it is, and with the structure of the quest, is very similar to a lot of early adventure games. This is very inspired by things like Deja Vu and King's Quest, where you had to go around and collect information and items, and talking to people gave you clues about the next thing you had to find or how to use things that you had found. So we've already got 2 quests, effectively. Save the princess, defeat the Dragon Lord. And we know that we're looking for the Ball of Light that was used by Erdrick. These are all important things. Become strong enough to face future trials, thou must first battle many foes. Experience levels are important, which is very true in Dragon Warrior. Thou must have a key to open a door. That is correct. Okay. So, we can't actually... we have to start off with no equipment and head over to Breckenry. Thou art most welcome in Breckenry. Thanks. We're going to start off with a club. Enter the shop and speak to its keeper across the desk. The game does a great job of pointing you in the right direction, which I was really surprised by. Go north to the seashore, and then follow the coastline west until thou hast reached Garinhan. Like, I'm sure I do not remember it being this good at guiding you, but that's probably because when I was a kid I wasn't actually doing a good job of talking to people. Many have been the warriors who have perished on this quest, but for thee I wish success, Edgar. Screw the rest of those guys, though. Right? Please save us from the minions of the Dragon Lord. So a lot of the people don't have a ton of information. Some of them have game dialogue or gameplay tips like this. Watch thy hit points when in the poisonous marsh, because whenever we step into a swamp, we're going to take a little damage. Some of them have kind of generic things. There's a town where magic keys can be purchased. A lot of them are kind of going to foreshadow stuff or tell us about things that we might have to worry about later. Welcome, I deal in tools. Okay, we're gonna grab a dragon's scale. And we're going to go ahead and use the dragon's scale. So there's a little trick here, right off the bat. That gives us 2 defense power, which takes it up to 4. And our defense is still the same. So this is kind of the most efficient way to get a little bit of defense early on without actually spending too much of our gold, because we do want to save up. So that brings us to the first thing we're going to actually have to do. We've gotten tips about getting up to Garnham, but quite frankly, if we try to get to Garnham right now, we're gonna die. Because levels in this game are important. So, this is our starting setup. We're at level 1, and we need to get some levels. Luckily, the enemies near town are very easy to kill. Blue and red slimes. And I'm going to be having to get quite a bit of experience before we continue on. But it's kind of comes in sections. There's like steps to it. And that's a lot of what this game is, which is part of the reason I put it off for so long. So the way that this grind is gonna work, this map is divided into 64 squares, which is kind of neat. So, each of those areas has different enemies that can show up. This first section is 2 squares near town. And the enemies here are just slimes and red slimes. They give you this kind of buffer zone around town where you can safely level up. This game actually does a very good job of keeping the zones somewhat separated. Small variations in the zones are usually pretty more seamless, like adding one enemy to the... It kind of adds one enemy to the pool at a time, unless there is something significant in the way, or significant changes. And the best examples of that are usually bridges. Usually crossing a bridge, or approaching a bridge in some cases, because, you know, they're not perfect. It's hard to make it line up perfectly with squares. A lot of times, bridges are used when there are... Oh, I think we're gonna be okay? Yes. So So yeah, a lot of times bridges are the indicator, or some other something else like a town, a marsh, mountains are used as separating points, or water, to kind of block off different types of enemies or indicate where there are going to be changes. Courage and wit have served thee well. Thou hast been promoted to the next level. Thy power increased by 1, thy maximum hit points by 6. Okay. And we need to go back to town. Unfortunately... Okay, so it's gonna be 6 gold per room. That first level wasn't super efficient, but the longer we go, the more efficient our grind is gonna be. And, like I said, a lot of this game is grinding. And I'm not going to be doing all of it on stream, because that was the first one, just to get up to 2. That only took a few minutes, it's not too bad. The next one is going to be going from 2 to 3, and we're going to be doing about the same thing. Whoops. Going to be doing about the same thing. Until we can reliably fight Drakis. So, there are 2 things we're looking to do here. One of them is to get 90 gold, potentially, to get a small shield. And the other one is getting to... I think our ultimate goal is going to be to get to level 4 before we progress. So... I'm going to talk about a couple more things quick, and then we're going to cut away and come back at the next time Courage and Wit serve us well. So, one other thing I want to mention is the terrain. You may have noticed me kind of heading up towards these forests and mountains, and the reason for that is because the terrain does actually matter a pretty good amount as far as the likelihood of having an encounter. Each square has a set value on how probable it is. This area by the castle is actually worse than anywhere else. It has the lowest probability of running into an encounter. And the reason for that is, again, so you can get to town safely and get your stuff and get back if you get trashed. But hills and desert are the highest amount of enemies. Swamps and forests are lower, and grasslands are the safest. So anytime I'm trying to get fights, when I'm like trying to do a grind, I'm going to try and walk on hills as much as possible, or desert. When we are dealing with something like trying to get to another town safely, when we're traveling, we'll be trying to stick to grasslands as much as possible, and forests if we have the option between hills and forests. Basically, when we have a purpose and we're trying to preserve our hit points and MP, we'll walk on the safer tiles, and when we are trying to grind, we'll go on the less safe tiles. It's a pretty simple concept, but again, it's something that a lot of other games don't do. And I think it's a really neat concept that I definitely didn't know was part of the game when I first played it. Okay. So that takes us up to 13 experience. I believe we're looking to get to 23 to continue. So I'm going to fast forward 10 slimes later. Okay, so this should be the last fight. We're in the red health, but we're trying to be as efficient as we can. I intentionally took this last fight as close to town as I could, just to make sure, and we'll be resting again afterwards. Courage and wit have served thee well. Thou hast been promoted to the next level. Thy power increased by 2, response speed increased by 2, which is agility. Maximum hit points by 2, and maximum magic by 7. And we learned a new spell. Okay, so we now have the spell of heal. However, our M key is too low. I just realized that we're at the wrong spot. Okay, so now, rather than spending 6 gold to go to the inn, we can do the extremely inefficient but cheap method of casting heal, talking to the old man, casting heal, talking to the old man. So, this is, like I said, the game starts out a bit slow, and a grind is definitely a large part of it. There's a large degree of, I mean, a lot of Dragon Warrior games have this to an extent. They just tend to have more content thrown in with the grinding. Like, about half of the stuff that I wrote up as I was making my notes for this game were about how to grind well. Okay. Perfect. So we are expanding our grind to Drakes, now that we're up to level 3. This is something we can now do pretty safely. And this little section of hills is the border over to the next area. So what this pretty much means is we can now just push through and grind out the last bit we need here. This one's gonna take a little longer. However, we are going to be able to get the small shield very shortly, so I am going to wait on that before we cut away again. So we're trying to get up to 90 gold to get that small shield. Now, we have options for buying armor, and I may actually pick up some cheap armor, but the big reason that we're doing it this way is because most of the armor are pretty small increases in defense. So rather than get several small increases over the course of the game, we're trying to save money and slow the grind a bit by doing a large, like a couple chunks of that. Now, shields, on the other hand, there are only 3 shields throughout the game. So, by buying the Dragon Scale, which is essentially free, for 10 gold, and which lasts the entire game, and the small shield, which is going to last a lot longer than any of the armor, we can make a pretty good little boost here, where we are now up to 9 defense, and we're still sitting at 11 attack. Now, a lot of the guides that I had been looking at when I was planning out my course were talking about buying a bamboo pole and clothes. Or getting the club and then saving up 10 gold and getting the leather armor. But I really liked this method when I was reading it, because essentially, so the clothes are only +2 defense, which is the same as the dragon scale, for the same price, but it's going to get replaced. The small shield is actually really decent as far as a boost goes, and we're not going to get another shield for quite a while. Okay, so at this point, actually, we're right by town, so heal. Brave Light Warrior something something. Also, I mentioned that our stats, that our strength and agility were going to be high. Now, starting out, that isn't actually the case. However, long term, we are going to actually pull ahead of some starts, and our strength and agility are going to be high. What that means is that we will hit for more damage and take less damage. Seems simple, but it is, I mean, it's important. Okay. And honestly, that's like one of the major factors for the very end of the game, is just being able to minimize how much damage you take, because a lot of the end of the game is just rationing your heals, and using good strategy with your spells. So if you're taking less damage to start with and doing more, it makes the fights shorter and safer. So, the king is greatly pleased that we've returned. Before reaching the next level experience, you must gain 14 more points. Not too bad. Well, tell me of your deeds so they won't be forgotten. And we record our... Do we wish to continue our quest? Yes, I'm gonna continue the quest. However, I am going to go ahead and, since we've got a bit more of a grind here, we're going to, again, just fight some more Drakis at this point, and cut away. And we will join back up in progress at level 4. Okay, we have gotten up to level 4. We got 2 more agility, 6 more hit points, 10 magic points, and a new spell. So, you may think that that means that we're ready to continue. And, you're semi-right. We are ready to start heading to the next area. However, I am being a little safer than we probably need to be. I think that's maxed out. So we are going to go and do one step in our actual quest, and I'm not even 100% sure whether this is like I'm not even sure whether or like what's supposed to direct you to this area, or whether you're just supposed to come across this cave. But fairly quickly, you do come across this cave. I mentioned the grid. So this is getting into the new section of a grid. And very quickly we learned the guard was not joking. However, if we have a torch, we can navigate. Just to be extremely clear, while that may look impressive, I am totally using a map. I know that people who are very experienced with this game, like from watching the randomizer, can navigate these completely in the dark. Oops. I hate the menu system in this game sometimes. We have found the tablet. The tablet reads as follows. I am Erdrick, and thou art my descendant. 3 items were needed to reach the Isle of Dragons, which is south of Breckenridge. I gathered these items, reached the island, and there defeated a creature of great evil. Now I have entrusted the 3 items to 3 worthy keepers. Their descendants will protect the items until the quest leads thee to seek them out. When a new evil arises, find the 3 items, then fight. So, this is kind of vague, but it does give us a little bit of a hint. I do find it a little odd that it doesn't talk about the other items we're going to eventually have to get, because technically there's like 2 sets of items we have to go collect. I hate this menu. There's like a weird sense of like hesitation with anything you do. You can see that there's like times where I'm like pausing in weird spots, and that's usually because I pushed the button, but unless you like hold the button for a second, it doesn't actually react. It's weird. So yeah, that gives us the kind of the first hints, and actually one of the things that tells us, which is again one of my favorite little bits of foreshadowing that they give in this game, is actually right at the beginning. South of Breckenridge. So they put the final castle, the place where the Dragon Lord is, right across the sea from your starting position. But they don't give you a way to get there immediately. So it's that like really odd sense of it's right there, but it's still so far away, and intentionally so. So, with that prophecy out of the way, I think we are going to save and end our first Dragon Quest video, or Dragon Warrior. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next one. Like I said, this is very archaic in a lot of ways, and some of those aspects made me very hesitant to make a series out of this. especially just the grind. And the only reason that I was looking at it is because I have been doing more to try and just do minor edits on my videos. So I figured that I could cut this and skip through the grind without having, while still actually having content. I want to make sure that you guys see everything and that I'm not just jumping through stuff. So I'll be making sure that I show every type of enemy that I'm fighting while I'm grinding. I want to make sure that I show the levels as I'm getting them. I want to do at least, you know, a few fights on the videos. I guess I want you guys to see a little bit of everything. I just don't want you to see the repetition. I will definitely look forward to hearing what you think. So hopefully, if you like and enjoy, give me a like, or if you enjoyed it, give me a like and subscribe. Check out the other content on my channel. If you have any questions or suggestions, especially about the format for this one, please let me know. As always, have a good one. We'll catch you next time.